Hi, I'm Jamie Tozzi, former Microsoft executive and now executive coach. I work with senior leaders, CEOs, and other senior leaders across industries to help and support them in their own leadership journeys. I'm also the host of a podcast called Executive Access, where I explore great leaders, what they do, and try to break that down for people who are also on their journey, with a huge heart for anybody on their leadership journey, and especially those early in career. The clients that I work with are from a variety of different industries, different size organizations. Every single one of them has something in common. They're very interested in learning and growing their own professional career from a leadership perspective. Many of them have just stepped into a new leadership role, whether it be being promoted to the CEO of an organization or being brought in as a new CEO of an organization, and trying just to figure out how they can be very successful in this new leadership role. What I have found is leaders at all levels in their careers come to these moments where they're being stretched in new ways, and that is a great time to work with an executive coach like me. There are three top qualities that I believe great leaders exhibit. The first is that they put others first. The second is that they are very principled and responsible. And the third is that they are outstanding communicators. Putting others first is such an important quality. You know, a lot of times when people tell me they want to become a manager for the first time, and I ask them why, and they tell me it's because it's the way to get to that next level in their career, and they leave out the people that they're going to be working with, it's often a huge miss. The thing that is most important is to really understand, how can I help others around me achieve their goals? It really comes from a mindset and a belief that if you really have to have, that is, every single person has worth and dignity. And when you can see people that way, it leads to a curiosity. It leads to a curiosity to say, gosh, why are you here? Why are you deciding to spend your time on this team in this organization? And when you can start to get to know people from a personal level, I think that's where it starts. Putting others first also means trying to figure out what it is that they're trying to accomplish in their lives, in their careers, and then taking that information and being able to connect in the work that they do every single day into the broader mission for the team and organization. Sure, people can come to work and they can just do a job, or you can help them connect what they're doing, even if it's a very, very small piece of the puzzle, to something much bigger that drives purpose and mission in your organization. And when you can create those connections for people, not only does it have a phenomenal benefit to the person you're talking to, each one of us wants to be able to show up and do great work, but it has incredible business outcomes. So great leaders are able to unlock that, by putting others first. And then I think another great example of putting others first is just really obsessing over those you serve. It is really important that every leader understands, who is it that we serve? Is it our clients? Is it our customers? Is it our partners that we work with? And really put yourself in their shoes. What is it that we're doing to make their lives better, to deliver our service better? And when you can get into that mindset, great leaders, they start rolling up their sleeves. They start asking questions. They start going out and trying to find out as much as they can, learning every day. And by doing so, they create and they model that way for the rest of their team. And what starts to happen is a culture within the organization that is an outward mindset. What are the goals and needs and objectives and challenges of those we serve? And then out of that flows tremendous innovation and value that, again, not only feels great, you're doing something to help others, it creates a ton of business value for the organization as well. A great example of putting an employee first, I once had a person on my team, Jay. He was one of the best sales reps on our team. I mean, he was the type of person that any leader would want to keep on their team forever. He was living in New York, and he said to me, Jamie, I really want to move to Atlanta. I want to move to Atlanta because I'm about to propose to my girlfriend, and we're going to move to Atlanta. It's where we're going to start our lives. And I know that you don't have any positions on your team in Atlanta. I'm really struggling with this. Now, my first thought was to, very selfishly, to want to explain all the reasons why he could stay in his current role, and maybe his future wife, would love moving to New York. But that's not what I did. Understanding what his goals in life were, I spent the next few weeks really personally going out there to my colleagues in the Southeast region, advocating for Jay to find a new role. And that's exactly what happened. He found this great role in the Southeast team. And I lost him on my team, which was hard for my team, but it was great for Jay, and it was ultimately great for Microsoft, the organization, as well at the time. Fast forward many, many years, I saw on LinkedIn that Jay had just gotten this big promotion, and I think I just congratulated him on LinkedIn, and he sent me a note, and he just said, "You have no idea what that impact had on me, and is probably the reason why I was able to stay at Microsoft even though I couldn't stay on your team." That is the value of putting other people first. And you do it because it's great for the person, but people around you see that as well. And I find that people want to work with and for leaders who they know have their back, who they know will put them first. And that vibe gets out there, that message gets out there, and enables you as a leader to attract great talent. So you might lose a Jay, but you're doing the best for him, but you're going to attract great talent as well. From a customer perspective, I think putting customers first is recognizing and playing the long game. I think when you can go out there and really understand what customers need. There was one time when we had a customer where we had some sales objectives and goals. They were very short term. We all felt a lot of pressure around it. There was this one client of ours where we were sort of counting on this big end of year purchase from them. As we dug in with the client, though, it became very apparent that, yes, we could have probably gotten them to make that purchase, but it really wasn't the right thing. It wasn't the right time for them. It really wasn't the right solution. And we also know that if we just spent a little bit more time and waited for another piece to come in, probably 3 months later would have been the right time. And so we told the client knew how important this was to us, but we told the client that it wasn't right for them. And so we pushed off that sale. It hurt us in the short term. We had to definitely reckon with those, that short-term loss of success. But I think the benefit in the long term, it developed a much stronger relationship with that client. That client understood that we wanted their success. And I think it just improved the bonds. And that client is still a client of ours years after the fact. So I think putting clients first ultimately is always the right thing to do. You just have to have a long game mentality around it. The second great quality of a great leader is being principled and responsible. And I want to start by describing that in order for a leader to be principled, you have to be very self-aware. You have to really understand who you are, what are your strengths, what are you really good at, what are you passionate about, what are the areas that are not your strengths? And this self-awareness is the first step. And then the second step is embrace your authenticity. I often get asked a question when I go to speak to emerging leaders. They say, how can you become your authentic self? And I remember a time early in my career where I would just watch great leaders and I would try to do everything that they did. And it worked to a certain extent, but it really was just a bad imitation. I was just badly imitating somebody else's style. It wasn't until I really grew in my self-awareness of who I was as a person and embraced my own authentic self, which I would describe as slightly quirky, a little nerdy. I like to do my own PowerPoints. They look really homegrown, but I like that. It's my style. When I started embracing my authenticity, I started noticing that the reaction I would get from people was just, at an entirely new level. It was my style. It was the true Jamie. And when I was showing that to people around me, they were embracing that. They were acknowledging it. There was something about it that said, I trust you because you're being who you are. And I also found as a leader that, gosh, it was much easier just being myself than it was trying to imitate somebody else and somebody else's style. So I think the first step in being principled is really reflecting on who you are, what's really important to you, and being able to I think have the courage to show your authentic self always in everything you do. Along those lines, it also means when you know what your strengths are and you know the areas that you're not so good at, it's having the wisdom and the courage to then surround yourselves with people that can complement your strengths. So, I once probably one of the people that comes to mind is Dave from my old team. Now, I'm sort of a dreamer. I can sort of envision big things. I get excited about the idea. And Dave's great quality was he was an operational, like he was into operational excellence. So I would start dreaming and talking about the future, and he would be patient with me for a while. And then he would jump in and say, all right, Jamie, what are we deciding to do? Come on, like, what are we doing? We can't dream forever. And what a great balance. And to have a Dave next to me, knowing that that wasn't my strength, I think was really important. So I think great leaders that understand who they are, understand that they're not going to be great at everything, and surround themselves with people is really important. I think the other thing around principled is how you view others. Really assuming good intent in others is really, really important. You recognizing that you have one view, and as a senior leader especially, your view is pretty far and wide. It's usually not the ground floor view. And so when you are out there seeing people acting in ways that seem odd to you, you just really want to just say, you know what, why are people that I believe are here to do a great job acting in ways that seem counter, and being open and curious about those things. So being principled is also about describing the values and behaviors that you want to see in your organization. And again, this all stems from where I started, which is self-awareness. Great leaders describe very clearly what's important to them and the behaviors that they want to see. And when they do that, they create clarity in their organization. People say, oh, now I know what's expected of me. And everybody has the same language for going and doing those things. It also gives a framework for you and other leaders in the organization to notice when something seems off and just do a gentle correction. I often say great leaders are like, they let their teams drive on the highways and drive across multiple lanes. But occasionally if they see them veering off on a lane that doesn't seem right, they just gently come and correct. I was in a yoga class once and doing my thing and struggling a little bit, and the yoga instructor would walk around and just gently move my shoulders 3 inches just to get me back on course. That's what I think a great leader does. And creating and describing the behaviors and the values that you have on the organization are a great start. The responsible side to principled and responsible is taking ownership of everything within the organization. A great leader does two things that may seem contradictory. They understand that ultimately the buck stops with them and they are responsible for everything that happens in the organization, and yet they empower their team. I personally think, and one of the values and the behaviors that I love to see is a growth mindset. When, as a leader, you have a growth mindset and you truly see others around you as having the ability to learn and grow, and when you, as a leader, walk into each day recognizing that you're really good at what you do, but there's always room to improve day after day after day, it naturally unlocks something in you that enables you to step out and try new things, and want that for your team as well. Okay, so enabling people to go out, make a few mistakes here and there, have their back, and ultimately be responsible for everything that goes on around you. The third thing that great leaders do is that they communicate super effectively. And that's a broad statement, but let me give you a couple examples. First of all, they create an exciting future for their team. Great leaders are very clear with their team, not only with where they are today, but where they're heading. Okay, so an exciting future, a vision of Camelot, some big goal that inspires and excites everybody around them. And then, of course, connects the dots based on where we are today to a plan that shows how the team is reaching those goals every single day. Okay, so that's the first thing. Also around communicating effectively, I always like to say that transparency beats perfection. What I've learned as a leader is that there's always things that are going on in the organization. There's always some problem or some issue that is preventing people from doing their best work or causing some type of challenge. There's a way that you have to go about so that you find out what those are. But as a leader, ignoring those things never works. Some leaders might be tempted to say, well, we're not going to say anything about that bad thing or that challenge that we have until we fix it. And I think that's a really bad approach. So instead, I think leaders that can communicate transparently what's going on, it looks like, team, hey, I know that we're running into these 3 challenges. I understand that it's causing us some problems in these ways, but you know what? We're going to fix it. Here's what we're working on. We don't have it fixed yet, but you know what? I got it, or we have it together. I think what people generally want is not, they don't expect their leaders to fix every problem that's out there, but they sure do appreciate that the leaders understand what they're going through. And people, when they know that they're understood, I find will continue to walk in ambiguity, continue to do hard work even when it's challenging, and they just appreciate that transparency. And finally, I think leaders that create an environment where bad news can travel fast is an absolute must. Those are the best leaders. Think about a time when you were working in an organization and everybody was sort of talking and knew that there was a problem, but were afraid to tell the leader. So the leader walked around thinking one thing was happening and not realizing that the majority of the organization was either struggling to deliver on what that leader was expecting, or they were just nodding and not doing it. And so at some point in the future, the leader gets frustrated, right? And I say it's the leader's responsibility to create the environment where individuals feel like they can share bad news. As a leader, I always think about, I want to know what's going on. And so I think leaders that can get out there, really seek information, walk around, be accessible, ask questions like what's going well, what's not going well. And also when people bring issues forward, recognizing that the way you handle that also sends a message. So when an issue comes forward, thanking somebody for bringing the issue, remaining calm, remaining to be that calm, cool ship captain, and addressing them. I always say that a leader should want to know everything wrong in the organization because then we have an opportunity to fix them. So I think great leaders are great communicators in all of those ways, making sure that every single day people wake up, they're very clear on how their work leads to this exciting vision, that they're going to bring forward issues as they come up so they can be addressed, and for leaders to constantly be checking in with their team, demonstrating that they understand what's happening and trying to seek out new information. So I'm often asked, how do I think about my own growth as I am also responsible for the growth of those around me? For me, and this is part of my authentic leadership and part of my just enjoyment for this growth mindset idea, when I embrace growth mindset, I embrace this idea that as good as I am today and as confident as I can be today in what I'm doing, I'm not as good as the Jamie Tozzi who will be next year or 3 years from now. It's also how I look at my team. As amazing as I see the people on our team, they're not as good as if they continue to learn and grow as they will be next year and the year after. Same thing, the offerings we deliver our clients, as amazing as those are today, there's always something that we can do that's better and better. And so I think I explain this to tell you that I tell my team that. I tell my team this philosophy, and it takes all the pressure off constructive criticism and things like that if everybody can just embrace this idea like we're pretty darn good today, but there's always an opportunity to grow and develop. So the next step would be I share with my team what I am growing towards. I share with them what I'm working on to be a better leader or to be deeper in my skill set. And what that does is I think it humanizes you to your team. It also creates an accountability. And more often I've found that my team actually helps me. So one time years ago, I was not very good on social media. Some might say I'm still not that great at social media, but I was back at Microsoft. And I told the team that I never post on LinkedIn, and I recognize that as a leader, it's my job to create some thought leadership and to be out there a bit more, but I'm just working on it. The next day, like somebody who had just come out of college, was a college hire for us, offered to help me with my social media presence. And for this person, he was very comfortable with it. And I thought, that's great. And he really did help me. It was fantastic. So I find that when you can actually share with your team members what you're working on, it enables them to give you a little bit more grace for when you're not quite there yet and you fall behind in that. And it also opens the door for others to be able to help you. So I share. I find that this encourages other people to share with me what they're working on. And I also set that as an expectation. I don't say, are you working on something to grow and develop this quarter? I say, what are you working on to grow and develop this quarter? And I try to create space where that could be something of a personal development for them, but I also try to connect the dot in terms of how that growth and development can actually help them meet their career goals at my organization as well. So that's how I prioritize growth and development for myself and others. To me, it's all linked together. I'm often asked, how do I motivate my team? I think every situation calls for a different scenario, but I will say there are some common things. One, I think that the best way a team or a person is motivated is that they have very clear expectations. They wake up every day, they go, I understand what is expected of me. I understand where the bar is. Even if the bar feels a little hard to get to, I'm very clear. So the first thing I do to motivate my team is make sure that everybody is incredibly clear on what is expected of them in their role, what good looks like, and to also provide feedback along the way. I think providing clear expectations is so overlooked when people think about inspiring a team, but for me, it's the number one thing. I think most people want to do a great job, and we need to make sure that they're very clear on what that looks like. And once you are clear, I think people amaze you with what they can do. So that's step one. I think also when it comes to inspiring a team, it goes back to what I said right at the beginning. You have to really get to know your team. You have to see the dignity and worth of everybody. It makes you curious to get out there and find out what's important to them. And when you do all of those things, any given day, week, or month, you sort of have an idea of what the team needs in the moment. Has the team been working towards a really hard goal and they're all slightly burnout? And to inspire them, maybe we just need to spend part of our team meeting reflecting on all the successes that we have had in the past month, because we're usually just focused on what's not yet to do. That can be inspiring. Or maybe you're finding that the team has just hit a big goal, and so inspiration looks like taking the time to celebrate. Inspiration could look like giving somebody an opportunity to stretch in some way. I remember when I learned this once, I had a conflict to go into a big meeting. I was like, how am I going to handle this meeting? And I turned to somebody on my team and I said, would you mind covering this meeting for me? And it was so inspirational for her. I was thinking it was just something that I could cover. And for her, it was an opportunity to use her voice in a new way and use her executive communications and get some visibility. And so I think inspiration can come in a number of ways, but creating clarity is always the number one thing. And I think getting to know your team and asking yourself, what is it that my team needs right now? Oh, also a very underutilized but highly effective scenario is ask the team. Ask the team what they need. What do you think we need as a team? Right now, I'm in the middle of planning a big event for our team that is meant to be, for a team of a client I work for, that is meant to be inspirational. And I was sitting there trying to come up with all these good ideas, and I thought to myself, why am I doing this on my own? Why don't I just go and ask the team, let them know what we're trying to accomplish, and let the team figure that out? You're going to get way, way better optics and way better reaction from your team. In terms of who I look up to as a leader, and some leaders and coaches that have been great for me in my career, I thought maybe about sharing some people in the public eye, but that would be inauthentic. So the authentic thing would be to share, first and foremost, my mom. My mom wouldn't even describe herself. She's never been in the business world, but she is a phenomenal leader of our family. Just recently, my sisters and I got in a little scuffle, little something that we had to work on together and get clarity. We have a great relationship. But right before we were going to get together to talk through our concerns with one another, my mom just sent this beautiful email. And she just said, and we're 50 years old plus, here's what I expect of each one of you. This is how we do things in this family. And then she said, and above all else, I know you're in conflict right now, but remember who we are and who we are as a family. And she listed out 10 beautiful moments in our lives that would reconnect and remind us who we are, that set the right tone for that meeting. She didn't even have to be there, but it's a great example of, I think, great leadership. And so my mom does that. She just creates the conditions for everybody to do their best work and to be their best as human beings. From a work perspective, probably my best leader was one of my early managers, a man by the name of Dave Willis. I worked with him right as I was coming into my own as a leader. I think I was the first line leader. I was on a leadership team with other leaders, so you could say peers, but they were all more advanced in their careers than me. And so I might have brought a little bit of underdog syndrome to the table. And he just constantly empowered me. I remember one time I was new in a particular role. I took over a business that wasn't doing very well. And my job that day was to go present alongside of him, but me taking the lead on presenting to his boss, who I had never met before. And we were standing outside of his boss's office. His boss happened to run the entire Microsoft North America organization. And I said to Dave, I'm very uncomfortable right now. And I thought to myself, like years later, gosh, what a horrible thing to say. Like, talk about inspiring confidence with your leader. I'm very uncomfortable right now. But rather than him saying, you know what, I'll do the presentation, or doing the Papa Bear, Mama Bear thing that we all do, he just looked at me and he smiled and he said, yeah, well, that uncomfortable feeling that you're feeling right now, that's called growth. You'll do great. And he sent me into that room and it was my presentation. It was the best thing that he could have done for me. He believed in me. He pushed me. He told me when I made a mistake and he didn't coddle me. All of those things is what I think a great leader did, and some things that I like to model in my own leadership. So thank you, Dave. I have some advice for new or emerging leaders. First of all, I have such a big heart for new leaders. I remember being an early in career leader, and I would look up and see these amazing leaders around me and think to myself, wow, I could never do that. I could never be so articulate in the way I speak, or so poised, or all these things. And I was intimidated. And then I became a senior leader. And ironically, I never felt that way. And I would ask my colleagues, do you feel that way? And we would all laugh and we're like, I don't know, we don't have it all figured out either. So I would just say, as an emerging leader, do look around and learn from those around you, but recognize that everybody is on a journey. So have confidence, be encouraged, and take that first step. I think the number one thing a new and emerging leader should think about is helping others be successful. One mistake I see when people get promoted to managers or become a leader, they think that the job is about getting the job done, much like what made them successful. But flip the script to not what am I going to do? That's an individual contributor mindset. How can I help those on my team be successful? How can I create clarity for the team and what we're doing together? Man, there's something special about that, and the success will come. The other thing I would say is, just put yourself out there. You're going to make mistakes. That's okay. I think you should look for mentors everywhere you can, read leadership books, listen to the Executive Access podcast, which is my podcast, and learn from other great leaders. But most of all, I just want to encourage you to start your journey. If you want to help others be successful, you will be a phenomenal leader. There's one big aha that I had that I wish I had earlier in my career. And it came to me as a senior leader. But if I had had this nugget earlier in my career, I think I would have exploded in terms of my growth. You see, early in my career, I had really close access to what was going on in the business. I was very close to the customers. I was talking to them every day. I was really close, and I could see what was happening on the ground floor of the organization. But I never valued that view. I never thought there was anything special about that. I'm the lowest man on the totem pole. What's special about my view? But then I became a senior leader, and I didn't have as much opportunity day to day to meet with customers or to truly understand what was going on at the ground floor, or see every day how people are feeling and what's really happening. My view was great. I mean, my view, I could see far and wide. I was out there setting strategy. I had a broader perspective. I had a lot more experience. All of those views are really powerful. In fact, when I was an early in career person, I revered and looked up to those people like, oh, they're so amazing. They have all these special powers. There's nothing special about my view. But as a senior leader, what I realized is I was missing all kinds of context. I missed the ability to be out there talking to customers, the insights that I would gain. And so what I want to share is that as early in career leaders, just or even individual contributors, recognize that your view is incredibly, incredibly powerful. So when that senior leader comes to town, how can you share some themes or insights that you glean from customers? Because they don't talk to customers every day. Those little nuggets will be so powerful to a senior leader. And senior leaders recognize that that you don't have those views, and you're going to have to seek it out. You're going to have to ask. You're going to have to make yourself approachable, because most people, they don't think their views are special, so they won't share them. It's only when we can connect the dots between what's happening on the ground floor and the strategy that is being created elsewhere in the organization, when we can connect those dots, that's where powerful breakthroughs happen in the organization. So I think I'll sum up with this. If you find yourself more on a ground floor, recognize the power of your view and look for ways that you can communicate those views and those insights up the chain. Those people really need them. And then if you're a senior leader, seek out opportunities to hear what's really going on, test your strategy, make sure it makes sense. And when we do those things, amazing things can happen through connectivity in the organization. At the end of the day, great leadership is recognizing that everybody around you has an opportunity to learn and grow. And the same holds true for you. And use every opportunity you can to talk to somebody, be out there, put yourself out there to learn and grow. And when you can create an environment where everybody is doing that, man, anything is possible.